Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another ranked ladder game. Here we have Demu playing against a Chinese player I do not know. The Smurf database doesn't list this as a known Smurf, and well, given that I do not read Chinese, I can't really decipher who this guy is, but let's just roll with this. This guy is known for playing in quite a few team games, doesn't have a lot of 1v1 games on his record. I would just call him Teal based on his color. He's going to be playing as the Malians. And on the other side, Demu is going to be in command of the Delhi here on Highview. Now, Malians versus Delhi is a very intriguing matchup. The first thing to consider is that when you play Delhi on Highview, you are pretty much guaranteed one Sacred Site. The Sacred Site spawns such that there is always one in the corner close to you. As you see, that's the thing for both players. Granted, this one on the left side is a lot more well defendable than the one on the right side, so Demu is getting punished here by the map generation gods quite a bit. Although this is a nice little position for him to be in. If he wants to expand towards this area, there are some berries, there is the Sacred Site. Most of his gold is on this side as well, so is the stone. So a lot of precious resources and value in this corner for Demu. On the other side, you look at the base of Teal. He's going to have a very nice and well-defendable Spit Mine spawn, especially because he can wall this little segment here, and if he does that, this flank is going to be secure. I would personally prefer him walling this northern side, because that secures this entire corner, including the Sacred Site, some backup gold, some food, the back of the wood line, and all this stuff. And then on the right flank, it's a pretty straightforward wall as well. You can just wall these little areas, and you will have a very nice and well-defendable base. It very much seems like the map generation gods have been preferring Teal over Demu here. He's got a lot more forests surrounding his base. He can wall a lot easier than Demu can. Now, this matchup is pretty tricky, especially because we're playing on a Season 5 patch, which I think when this video comes out, it should be obvious by that time. I'm recording a lot of these casts at the same time, so some of these games, when you see them, have already happened like 2 or maybe even 3 weeks ago. Probably not that much, but you never know. But still, we're playing Season 5 patch, so we will be possibly seeing some Ghazi Raiders from the Delhi player. On the other side, there is the Mansa Quarry coming up, and it's a Tower of Victory build by Demu. It's funny to see how Tower of Victory became one of the more prominent landmarks of the 2 landmarks available for the Delhi for Feudal Age. In fact, I was chilling on Lucifer on stream yesterday, and he said something very funny about the Dome of Faith. He said that this landmark does not exist for him. So we've gotten from a full Dome of Faith meta to essentially an exclusive Tower of Victory meta nowadays. Now, the main reason behind this is because combat healing was nerfed, so now it's much more difficult and much more unrealistic to justify investing into dozens of scholars so that you get that combat healing. In the meantime, obviously with Ottomans being in the mix, with Mongols oftentimes flooding you with archers and then having the Khan buff as well for them, all these civilizations that get these temporary attack buffs, it's very important to have something that can compensate for that, and the Tower of Victory is great to do that with. And if you're playing against an opponent that doesn't have any of those combat buffs, this is going to be your margin of advantage. So, Tower of Victory, very valuable, especially in today's very heavy archer meta. But we'll have to see whether we have a stable coming up first. Obviously, Tower of Victory does not buff the cavalry, but it doesn't mean that you won't be playing into cavalry initially. You might want to get a couple of Ghazi Raiders going, establish some map control, force some Dunsos out from your opponent before you switch into archers. No production building from Demu just yet. There's the stable indeed. Nice little compact base for him. He is going for Sanctity, that's no surprise. He's going to sneak out when the time comes. He's going to secure the Sacred Site. Again, the storyline behind this landmark, Tower of Victory versus Dome of Faith, is that you no longer need that many scholars. You just go for the secure Sacred Sites, and you'll be very cautious, making sure that you do not lose your remaining scholars. Now, if you do lose your scholars, you will be in a troublesome spot because rebuilding them will be 130 each. It's gonna be scouts coming out from Teal at the beginning, at least one scout. Now he's going to start adding some sofas. He's got a mill, and he's just going to play straight into the cattle, so no professional scouts coming in from the Malian player. Just gonna be straight up a cattle build. Mansakwari stat on gold as well. And here are the Ghazi Raiders. Now, these bad boys, the Ghazi Raiders, they do get some bonus damage against heavy units. And it makes it much more difficult for the Malian player to play into sofas in this case. This damage buff isn't huge, by the way. You see it's +2 versus heavy. But it is still a thing. Technically, the Ghazi Raiders are like a soft counter to heavy units, especially when you look at the cost efficiency of those fights. So when you're playing with the Malians, you want to be cautious going heavily into the sofas, because the Ghazi Raiders will be pretty good against them. Upgrades just now finishing for Demu. He also has a blacksmith going. He's going for range defense first, which I kind of agree with, despite the fact that he's playing into cavalry. So if you do the math on this, you're playing range defense when you have a unit that counters archers. Why would you do that? And the answer is pretty simple. It's because this is something that will have a long-term effect on you. Long-term, you're switching into archers, so does your opponent, because the Malians want to play towards a large archer ball. Malians will always try to do that because poison arrows is a very powerful tech. So it's not a surprising thing at all to expect the Malians to play heavily into archers. That's the idea behind getting that upgrade here. Nice little scuffle. There goes one Sofa. Ghazi Raider slowly being focused down as well. There are two archers here for Demu, and they do have the buff from Tower of Victory as well. Nice little move to pull away the Ghazi Raider. And don't forget, you do have scholars over here. In fact, this one scholar is moving to the middle, so Demu can heal up all these damaged units. Interesting to see him going for the Sacred Site in the middle. I guess the idea here is that he wants to just get some extra gold from it. He knows he might not be able to hold it forever, but every little bit of gold matters. He has a second scholar taking the Sacred Site to the east. So now he's just going to secure this area. And he's got the archers here, so he can wall this in. In the meantime, we have two pit mines operating for the Malian player. He's going heavily into cattles here. He doesn't have all the pit mines surrounded with the houses. You see, he's just now building a couple more here. And this one also has some more spots. Now he's playing into archers. He's yet to get a single blacksmith upgrade, though. Demu is 45 seconds away from finishing Iron Undermesh. He doesn't have a single scholar buffing this, though. When this bad boy gets back home, it's going to buff that upgrade a lot. Wars are almost completed. Demu's got a lot of Ghazi Raiders here. Now you gotta be cautious with line of sight here. You see, this map, High View, it has a lot of stealth forests. So whenever we look at the POV of either of these players, one of the things you see, or one of the things that you do not see, is the complete size of the opposing army. They have a decent idea based on what they see, but they need to be extra cautious on this map not to be surprised by reinforcements. This is part of the reason why this map often drags out to provide very long games. Players are hesitant to commit to fights because they are afraid that there might be more units lurking in the shadows. Deal trying to bash his way through these walls. Remember, every second that Demu has these sacred sites, it's immensely valuable. More sofas on the way, archers as well. I have mixed feelings about this army here for Teal, to be honest. First of all, he doesn't have a single blacksmith upgrade. But the more alarming thing is that his archers will lose out to the ones that are buffed by the Tower of Victory. And I think the Ghazi Raiders will also beat down the Sofa. You see, it's 155 of an HP with 16 melee attack, 162 attack speed, and 2 melee defense. The Ghazi Raiders do 12 plus 2, have 2 seconds of an attack speed, and no melee armor. That means that on even numbers, Sofas should win, but Ghazi Raiders are cheaper. Sofas cost 120 and 60 apiece, Whereas on the other side, Ghazi Raiders are 110 and 30. And don't forget, a lot of eco upgrades are already in for the Delhi player. Talk about double products, talk about fertilization. These techs do help a lot when it comes to sustaining the production of the Ghazi Raiders. So, I have the gut feeling that Demu's army is looking a lot better right now. And it's going to get even more valuable when Steeled Arrow finishes. Now, the good news for our Teal player here is that he's got the passive gold income of the Malians, which makes it a lot more plausible for him to keep the number of Ghazi Raiders even to the number of Sofas. And if it's an even Steven game when it comes to the cavalry numbers, that should still be okay for the Malians here. Demu might be flirting with Castle Age at this point. Once again, cavalry will commit. Demu is going to swing south though, he's going to probe this pit mine. Would have been lovely to wall this off, by the way, for Teal. Wall off this corner, make the pit mine here. It's gonna be impossible to raid. Nice little spread of units over here. Horsemen will attack the pit mine, and the archers are going for lumberjacks. They didn't have line of sight, though, so they couldn't get any picks. They will be forced to retreat. But the pit mine is getting torched down. You see, Demu isn't even focusing on the houses. He wants to get the pit mine, and will probably disengage soon. I don't think he wants to take this fight. He is going to have Steeled Arrow finish just a couple of seconds from now. And I think he could take the fight now if he wanted to. But I don't think he wants to risk it. Famous last words. It looks like he will try to take this fight. Trying to just dance back and forth here. Numbers looking pretty even. But these archers are just so much better for Demu. He's got Steeled Arrow. That's not something that's there for our Teal player. These archers are being buffed by the Tower of Victory as well. Ghazi Raiders having a bonus damage against the Sofas. And you see, at the end of the day, this is an even trade of armies. But given that Demu is getting closer and closer to Castle Age, I think that favors him quite a bit, actually. Sofas will be focused down over here. Pit mine now being rebuilt. As I said, if you look at even cavalry numbers, the Sofas should win. But these TOV archers are still doing a lot of work. They're getting rid of a lot of those precious Sofas. Demu doesn't even want to destroy the archers. He just wants to focus on the precious cavalry. Looks like Demu might be doubling down on feudal though. This is so tricky. If he committed full feudal, I think he would have been able to outnumber his opponent. For a moment, it seemed like he was gonna go to castle. In fact, he's stacking up resources again for something like that. But he needs to make a decision, because this force is about to push out now. Sofas are still pretty much intact. You see, average HP is very high. Archer group is still in there. And the walls have been breached, so I think if you're Demu, if you cannot take a good fight over here, you probably should just forfeit this sacred site. Let's see if he's gonna do that. Don't forget, line of sight is limited here for our Teal player. He doesn't see the full extent of Demu's army. And when he sees all the Ghazi Raiders move in, when he sees all the archers, he's going to think twice about fighting this. The last two remaining blacksmith upgrades are also coming in for Demu. But I think he's going to wait until Castle Age now. It's likely going to be a compound of the Defender, Castle Age. He's going House of Learning. That's a little surprising. Usually, nowadays, you see Compound of the Defender because Village Fortresses as a tech is just so valuable. So I'm somewhat puzzled about this House of Learning. But if he wants to just play into Lancers and get an immediate advantage, try to finish this game quickly, it might be a good idea. He's rushing up the landmark with 17. Love to see how he's keeping away the opponents from the sacred side, but he's not committing to a fight. Sofa was dispatched to deal with the sacred side. Demu actually rallied two Ghazi Raiders in here. You see sacred side decap was stopped a couple of seconds before it was neutralized. And that means that Demu still has both of the sacred sides under his control. Now he's gonna fall back. That's partly because he wants to get at least a couple of Castle Age units out here. You see Lancers are on the way. He's opening with own blades, but that's gonna take a lot of time to research. Of course, all the techs will, so the Ghazi Raiders will remain feudal age units for a while. He is going to take this fight. He's going to try and trade, hold this sacred site as long as possible. Lancers are now arriving to the battlefield. He needs a couple more. I think if he gets up to 5 Lancers, this fight is a one that he can take. But it's getting difficult because all the Ghazi Raiders are now disappearing. More Lancers coming in. Slowly taking some trades against the Sofas. You see, he's focusing down the Sofas. He wants to destroy this front line that's protecting the Archers and then just unleash his own Lancers on the Archers. 2 more Lancers, 3 more Lancers on the way. Army numbers looking better for the Malian player, though. And he's setting up cattle ranches. Here come the Archers. Lancers will force them back. Some more Lancers moving in. Frontline mostly disappeared here from the front. And now, our Teal player, he is slowly falling apart. This is getting dicey. This is getting very dicey, actually, for him. He's trying to get up to Castle Age, but it's getting difficult. It's getting increasingly difficult because now he's under pressure from Castle Age units. Archers are moving in from Demu. And I do not know at this point what he could do. The TOV Archers are doing such a good job preventing the addition of Danzos, and they do a lot of damage against those Sofas as well. Lancer production halted for a time being for Demu here. Onto is a tech that's coming in. It's still 2 minutes and 10 seconds away. Castle Age still elusive though for Teal. And this is the problem that he's facing. You see, he is stuck in Feudal. So every fight that he takes is going to be slightly suboptimal. And in those situations, you will always have to spend more resources on units than your opponent has to. And if that's the case, you will never get to Castle Age. Looks like he's going to stop military production for the time being. He is going to try to get to Castle Age. It's likely going to be through the Farimba garrison. Should be Farimba very soon. He is going to be possibly cut away from this pit mine, but there's a backup on the north. And he is indeed rushing up the Farimba garrison with 28 villagers. That's a lot of villas to work with. On the other side, Demu does have 2 sacred sites though, and he's working his way towards elephants. Also mixing in some crossbows. I think, well, he didn't directly see the Farimba garrison, but when your opponent is playing passive like that, that's an indication that he might be working his way towards Castle Age. Now Demu gets a confirmation as well, so he's setting up for some Castle Age units to arrive. Elephants, it's going to be good against these Archers until the Archers get the poison arrows. Crossbows obviously will be good to dispatch the Sofas. I would love to see some Mangonels though for Demu here. If he doesn't have Mangonels, a big ball of poison arrow Archers will be difficult to deal with. Looks like it's going to be just Sofas coming in. Imported armor, very valuable upgrade. This is something that's a must-have for our Malian player. On the other side, Demu has started mining stone, but he doesn't have enough for a keep just yet. When he does get to 800, he's going to drop a keep over here probably. But before that, he is going to attack. Army number is looking better for him. Knights now swinging north. Here come the Sofas. Sofas are lacking imported armor, and that's a big thing that's missing in a critical fight like this. Here comes the Elephant. It closes distance to the Archers. Those Lancers are just so much better than those Sofas. Imported armor is such a critical upgrade. Even with that, it would have been difficult to take this fight, but without, it was just futile. And with that, Demu is going to close the game out. Lovely game from him. Held 2 sacred sites for most of the game, and that's a critical thing. He was able to maintain control over that central sacred site, despite the fact that there was heavy pressure from the opponent, and that's part of the reason why he could beat him to Castle Age, and once that happened, the Lancers just swung it to his favor.